Hello, my name is Corbin Irwin, and this is a presentation for CYB 630, Enterprise Cyber Law and Compliance Strategies. This is a presentation about the Fair Information Practice Principles, or FIPPs. Our objectives today are to describe the principles of FIPPs and how they function, compare and contrast FIPPs to other contemporary policies, laws, and regulations, and discuss how federal entities can implement FIPPs to protect personally identifiable information within real-world settings. So what are the Fair Information Practice Principles? FIPPs, or the Fair Information Practice Principles, is a collection of accepted best practices and standards that guide governmental agencies and other organizations in designing and maintaining their information and privacy activities. The principles help guide how information is gathered, processed, and used. FIPPs are not laws, but are widely accepted guidelines. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So let's talk about the different principles. There are 8 of them, and we'll talk about each one in detail, as well as how federal agencies can implement them within their own privacy policies. The transparency principle is the first one. The transparency privacy principle states that all data collection, usage, processing, upkeep, and changes, and sharing should be outlined clearly to the data user. So basically, you should know what's going on. There should be transparency. The transparency policy aims to inform users of what and how information is being used. Federal agencies can implement this principle by letting users know exactly what information they are collecting and with whom it might be shared. Ensuring that all information gathering techniques and implementations are transparent allows the trust of users to be built. The next one is individual participation. This is similar to the last one, but this one is the individual participation principle that says consent is needed from data subjects, users, before data collection, usage, storage, or sharing takes place. Additionally, any data that is collected should be accessible for users to change, modify, or view. The individual participation principle ensures that all data parties are involved and informed about data practices. Federal agencies that gather user information should inform them about what they are gathering and get their consent, and then create a platform that allows them to request the stored information or change it or modify it. The purpose specification principle states that collecting information should serve a specific purpose, which has been stated and should not be used in any other process or stored longer than is needed to complete the original purpose. Additionally, should that data be used for any other purpose, the data subject should be reinformed of its new use. So essentially, if you're collecting data, you need to know why and how long it's going to take you. And if you do use it for anything else, you need to inform the user. This principle serves as a safeguard for the misuse of data while ensuring that data is not simply collected with the hopes it might be useful. Federal agencies wanting to follow this principle should be outlining how data is collected with consent, and where it's going to be used and what purpose it will be used for. They should also tell them how long it's going to be stored in order to fulfill that purpose. An example of this would be the limited time that background checks are stored by most federal agencies. Once the purpose of the background check has been completed, the background check is no longer stored. Data minimization principle. The data minimization principle states that only the exact information required to accomplish a task should be collected, and it should be only stored for long enough to finish the said task. So no more data than what exactly is needed should be collected. The principle's purpose is to minimize the amount of data that is collected and limit how long it is stored. It helps minimize the danger of misuse, theft, or loss of integrity of information collected from the data subject. Federal agencies should have well thought out data collection and processing plans in place so they're able to limit the data they need to collect. This reduces risk for both the data subject and the organization itself. The use limitation principle states that PII should only be used for the original purpose of which the data subject was notified, and that any sharing of or transference of this data should only happen to support this original purpose. The principle helps protect subject's information by limiting its use and movement, and also ensures that the data subject's consenting to all collection, use, and sharing. Federal agencies should always limit how collected information is used and only use it for the express purpose for which consent was obtained. Information should never be transferred unless it supports the original purpose of the collection. This allows the agency to minimize the attack surface and keep the data subject's information safe. So essentially with this, you're saying we're only going to use it for this purpose, nothing beyond that, and we're going to minimize any sharing that you don't know about. Data quality and integrity principle states that information should be of high quality and integrity, being complete, accurate, and timely. The data quality and integrity principle helps ensure that all PII is of the highest accuracy and has significance and value. Federal agencies should consider this principle when creating collection devices, methods, and timelines for data use. So basically, if you're collecting data that's not going to be used soon, it should only be collected closer to the time it's going to be used, or in a timely manner, so that's the most accurate and relative for its purpose. As seen in previous principles, allowing data subjects the ability to modify their data can also ensure that it's correct. So if a user is able to modify their data and see what's being stored, they may be able to correct it and make sure it's of high integrity. Security. The security principle states that all PII should be safeguarded with security measures that minimize the risk of unintended disclosures, unauthorized access, loss of integrity, or other modifications. All collected information should be protected by the appropriate security measures. Organizations have a duty to keep data subjects' information safe. Federal agencies should implement security protocols that are appropriate for the PII they are utilizing and ensure that it's protected from outside threats. Security programs should consider what information is being collected/stored and how it is being used. This information should be on the basis of security protocol design, should be the basis of security protocol design and implementation. So if you're collecting data, you have an intrinsic responsibility to protect that data and protect that data subject information. Principle, accountability, and auditing. The accountability principle states that a framework should be in place that ensures compliance with FIPPs. This framework should include training and expectation for employee, contractors, and third parties with access to or processing PII. Additionally, the framework should have steps for auditing compliance. So essentially, if you are going to be collecting data, you need to have training, accountability, and auditing processes in place to ensure that the FIPPs principles are being followed. This principle ensures that steps are being taken to implement FIPPs and that staff members and contractors follow those principles. Federal agencies have compliance and auditing steps in place so the agency can ensure that compliance efforts are effective. When you audit, you need to make sure, is this an effective program? Are we effectively implementing these principles? Pieces of training based on FIPPs help ensure that they are understood and implemented. Establishing an auditing step keeps the program on track and can help identify compliance issues early while they can still be rectified. So basically identifying issues before they become bigger issues. So those are our 8 FIPPs principles. Let's talk about how FIPPs compares or contrasts to other laws, policies, and regulations. Scope. Basically, FIPPs is meant to be used as a framework that can be applied to a large variety of organizations and agencies. FIPP contrasts with laws, regulations, and policies, which are much more specific and target certain organizations, types of information, or data use situations. So FIPPs is an overarching principle that can be applied in a lot of different situations as a high-level policy. Enforcement. FIPPs are not laws, they are not enforceable, and no organization can be held accountable for using them. But that being said, laws such as the GDPR use FIPPs as a foundation, and these laws are enforceable. We talked about fines with those several times. FIPPs are used as a foundational framework for many current laws, policies, regulations, and other integrations of privacy policies. So remedies and enforcement. FIPPs do not offer any specific remedies or consequences for violations of the principles or specific guidance for policies. So again, they're very high-level policies. They are guiding forces, or very high-level principles that are guiding forces to creating more specific policies that will have remedies, that will have enforcement, and that have a more specific scope. They are not the same as laws, policies, or regulations, but they can help form those. So in conclusion, FIPPs offers a tried and tested framework that guides organizations in protecting the privacy and information of data subjects. FIPPs are not complete solutions but help form policies, regulations, and laws. Organizations should utilize FIPPs as tools to help guide further program development and compliance with all industry and legal standards. These are the references I use. Thank you so much for your time and have a wonderful day.